We're here. So I want this to be as interactive as possible. So please do use the chat and emoji function. It's just great if we all get involved and it's not just my ideas. It'd be great to hear yours too. So I just want to start by asking, who is the best leader you've ever worked for and why? Pop that into the chat for me while I tell you a little story. It was 1992 and I was 18 years old. It was my first ever interview in a darkened room of an office block, and I had my mum's dress on and a jacket with proper Crystal Carrington shoulder pads, and I thought I was the bee's knees. Let's call the interviewing manager Bob. So Bob asked me what I could bring to the role of a customer service advisor, how quickly I could work, how many calls I could take in an hour, and I had to sit an aptitude test, and I left the interview feeling really deflated. Bob was pretty disinterested, made me feel like my answers were irrelevant and meaningless, and I didn't really enjoy the experience. I did, however, get the job and the offer of a salary of 6,480 per year, which I thought I'd made it. I was rich, that was it, I was in. Bob wasn't really well liked. In fact, it's fair to say he was quite a difficult, stubborn kind of guy who cared more about his reputation and his ego than his people and his work. You know, the ones that take your name off a document that you've spent 3 days completing and claim it as their own, those types. But I found out later, when sharing data became a thing, that Bob had actually written on the interview notes. What he said was, Caroline's not that bright. She can't add up quickly enough and she probably won't amount to much, but she's got great legs, so we should definitely give her the job. Now, my gran used to say that I had her legs and she was 82, so I'm not quite sure what he meant, but I was really quite upset about the she won't amount to much comment, and it actually stuck with me for a long, long time. And it was then my first realisation that words matter, like they really, really matter. A few years later, I became the boss of Bob. That was a good day. It was a fun day, and I could have been horrible to Bob, thinking about all the times he made me feel inadequate and not worth it. I could have been a bit of an arse, but I made the decision to ignore what was said in the past and kill him with kindness. So I chose the second option, and it felt great. Viktor E. Frankl wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, and it chronicled his experiences as a prisoner in a Nazi concentration camp during World War II. And it involved identifying a purpose in life to feel positive and then imagining that outcome. And everything that you do between now and achieving that is all about achieving that North Star. And Viktor E. Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there is space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. Now, I had 8 years before I was Bob's boss to choose my response. It wasn't a Will Smith moment, which we'll come on to later. But what came after that, 18 years after that, was a series of managers, brilliant managers, that I could call true leaders, the ones who displayed humility, honesty, care and empathy. And it's those ones that I remember most. And while I tell the story of my first experience, I really don't hold on to it because now I can count a wee bit better. Legs are still a bit weird, but you know, you can't have everything. So it's really interesting to me to understand what inspires you as a leader. I'm looking at some of the chat here, and Sarah's saying that she had an old manager that saw something that she didn't and really pushed her forward for opportunities. I love that because that's all about growth. Tia's saying that all of them have been people first. Denise, 1995, started her first management role, same era as me, Denise, that allowed her to develop organically. So, you know, there's some great memories that you all have. So someone believed in me more than I love myself. Jim Collins said one of the things that he believes is that it's not just luck in life, but who luck. And who luck is when you come across somebody that changes your trajectory. So someone that invests in you, bets on you, tells you they believe in you, gives you guidance and support. And I really feel privileged with my Who luck over the years. Like, I've got a hugely supportive team and advisory board who genuinely bring laughter, fun, belief, encouragement, and reality checks to conversations. And I've also had the pleasure of meeting and speaking with hundreds of business owners, leaders, employees, friends, and family over the years. Although my mum does still ask me what I actually do, she still doesn't know what I do, which is a bit of a challenge. But I've listened to all these people, all these leaders, to help understand how they act, how they think and deliver on their ambition to be the best leader through their clarity of purpose, how they treat people, and the way they take responsibility for wider societal challenges. It's been quite humbling. We've got a podcast called Mind Your Peas Podcast, where I get to speak to these business leaders on the subject of people, planet, philanthropy. I sometimes sneak in Prosecco and pizza. But one of the questions I asked them was, what comes first? Is it your purpose or is it the people? And the benefit of the wisdom of listening to these hundreds of smart business leaders is that I'm the firm belief that it all starts with clarity of business purpose, your reason for being, your North Star. And purpose is what comes first. To be clear on that common purpose and what you stand for, or who you are as an organisation, and the people will follow, they will come. And what they really meant was get clear on your company's core reason for being and where you can have a unique positive impact on society. Over the last years, loads of different brands have generated impact-driven innovation, and the trend for purpose-driven business has really started to build momentum. You probably hear a lot about, purpose-led business and so on. But it's because people actually want to work for a company that does good, and consumers want to do business with a company that does good. And brands are then ultimately working to position themselves as leaders, spearheading the way for a better tomorrow. So what is the definition of purpose? Well, purpose directs teams, companies to pursue its objectives with a strong intention to serve the well-being of others, and it's applicable to all types of organisations. It gives your people a meaningful reason to exist. Some examples of that are Timberland. So Timberland vowed to plant 50 million trees. IBM leveraged core technology for disaster relief. eBay scaled charitable donations through their eBay shopping for their charity program that allowed customers to make donations to 83,000 charities just as they're shopping naturally. Body Shops had huge success, and they've got a higher purpose, which is around helping 40,000 economically vulnerable people find employment. And closer to home, in Scotland, IMV Imaging, one of our members, make the lives of people better by providing vets with the best diagnostic equipment to allow the animal owners to rest easy in the hands of the vet. Blackwood Homes in Edinburgh help people live independently. And Uni Pizza Ovens, not only do they sell the best pizzas in the world, but they believe their purpose is connecting people through exceptional food experiences. That's what drives them, and that's what keeps them producing brilliant products. There's also Good Look based in Edinburgh. They're an advertising company with a difference. Every time people engage with their ads, they support charities, and they basically want to make the internet a positive place. MHIB, Mental Health and Business, are actually an organisation that we're partnering with right now. And I'm really excited about this because having spoke to Claire Russell, who's the founder, and hearing the story about her own breakdown and loss of her partner through suicide, Claire's got a huge amount of corporate leadership experience, but she's also a mental health speaker, trainer, coach, suicide prevention educator, and she volunteers at the Samaritans. And I think now more than ever, mental health, as well as physical health, is what people are really crying out for. So does creating a business that has a clear purpose, does it mean that we'll lose focus on the bottom line results, on the profit? Does it mean that we're going too far beyond our core product or service? Will our board, our employees, will our customers think that this time we've actually lost the plot when we start talking about purpose statements? And I think when companies leverage their purpose to benefit society, the impact can be quite extraordinary. Having that reason for being provides context for all daily decision making. And it's evident when we all fought COVID-19 with so many companies the only way they could get through the challenges that they faced were to focus on their purpose and where they were going. And let's face it, everything went absolutely haywire during the pandemic. It was a bit of a crazy time. But, you know, that evidence that we saw, amazing examples of community spirit. So in Edinburgh, Jason Miller from Charlie Miller Hairdressing, they transform lives through great hair. They started giving away free haircuts to NHS and care workers. Lewis Dawson, CEO at Bookspeed, which is a family-owned business in Edinburgh, committed to establishing workplace inclusivity for all. They sent packages to families and children at home, books and items. My daughter got one. She was a mad Harry Potter fan at the time, so it was fantastic. And for us at Social Good Connect, we're creating a world where people care and are inspired to make a positive social impact. We launched at the start of the pandemic, 6 months ahead of schedule, because people wanted and needed to feel that sense of community. And if you don't know what your purpose statement is, that's okay. There's some simple questions that you can ask around: why are we doing this? Why are we in business? Why do we exist? Why are we good at what we do? What do people say about us? What are we great at? Get these answers from your team, your customers, your stakeholders, and bring them together in one sentence that then becomes your guiding compass. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on purpose. If you have a business sort of, you know, purpose statement, please share if you do, or if you're just thinking about it, or if you think it's a load of tosh, please get your thoughts in the chat. So if we have established that we think purpose is important in this day and age, when you start to roll out that message, use it to recruit the best people. Share it everywhere, in your job adverts, in your induction programs, in your social media, on your products, and as part of your conversations with your customers through your services. Let people really feel it. And once you've recruited the brilliant people, you then need to think about, how do we continue to keep them happy? Because happy employees equal happy customers, and those customers will continue to come back. Companies like Google have invested way more in employee support over the last decade, and employee satisfaction's risen as a result. In fact, Google said it rose by 36%. And some people might laugh at the kind of benefits, you know, the free food, the yoga classes, the free gym access, I suppose suggesting that they're token gestures. So do perks really pay off? Do they improve the profitability of companies who deploy them? Have you had any perks in a company that you've worked for that you thought, this is perfect, this has really made my day, it's really touched me, and it makes me feel valued? A few years ago, a team from Warwick University researched the impact employee happiness had on the employer's bottom line, and Google said that although the results were up 36%, happiness levels were also associated with a 12% rise in productivity. So treating people well, said Forbes, the Fortune Best Company to Work For list, found that those organisations that had a higher score for employee happiness equalled better sales. The team at Sanctus, who's a mental health coaching at work programme, said that a recent study of 30 organisations where employees felt a high sense of belonging saw a 56% increase in job performance. The risk of turnover reduced by 50%. There was a 75% decrease in the number of sick days, and they would see some annual savings. So I think the research is showing us that the message is clear. If you treat employees well, this then creates a social contract that those employees work harder, be more efficient, and generally strive to do more for companies that treat them well. There's a bit of a debate about employees being your greatest asset. Anne Mulcahy, who's the former CEO of Xerox, said that employees are a company's greatest asset. They're your competitive advantage. You want to attract and retain the best, provide them with encouragement, stimulus, and make them feel that they're an integral part of the company's mission. And there's some who believe this phrase is basically a modern day cliche, right? You know, your people are your greatest asset. And it's rarely backed up by evidence. So if we dig a little bit deeper, the concept that employees are a company's greatest asset sounds good at first. But how many can stand by that statement? Think about what we've just been through. During difficult times and times of adversity, our greatest asset is often the first to be cut. Now we all know that sometimes that's unavoidable, but during the tough times and during the difficult times, I heard some horrendous stories of employees who were let go from their jobs, and there was no conversation, there was no care, there was no love, there was no understanding. And as long as you can have that conversation and with care and love, then that makes you a great leader. Martin Luther King said, "Be tough-minded and tender-hearted." So what positive proof is there that leaders are interacting and believing that their people are the greatest asset? Craig Nichol, who's actually on our advisory board, and he's the ex-managing partner at Thornton's, he says that employees are not your greatest asset, they're your only asset. And he talked about how during the pandemic, the senior team made a decision to, in his words, communicate the hell out of it. And every single day, like never before, they communicated daily with their staff. They did check-ins, not check-ups. Are you working? Are you really working? Are you online? Are you not? It was check-ins. How are you feeling? How's the family? What are you worried about? He said he communicated his way out of the pandemic by listening, by asking, by two-way feedback, and it's really, really worked. Thorntons are going from strength to strength. You've probably heard about the Great Resignation, right? It's everywhere at the moment. And I think this is just the start of what we're about to experience in the next 5 years. The people revolution, or the great workplace shake-up, that's the kind of the new words that are being bandied about. I spoke to the founder of Sanctus, a mental health company called James Routledge, in our podcast interview recently. And we were chatting about the fact that the time is now. And as the dynamic between employer and employee continues to shift, the ripples are being felt, far and wide, because people will just leave. They'll just go find a company that does have a purpose, that does care about its people. We just won't stand for it anymore. And there's vacancies that are open all over the board in every sector. So how do we, us, treat employees well? How do we give them that sense of belonging? How do we create an environment for people who feel valued, cared for, and inspired? And the reality is there's no quick fix. It's a big job, but it's also a once in a lifetime opportunity to be at the heart of driving and shaping how we all live our lives now. Like, there's no work-life balance. I think Claire and I were chatting about this the other day. It's like we've got one life and we need to fit everything in it. We need to fit our families. I need to be a daughter, a mum, a sister, a boss, a colleague, a friend, and I'm not sure I do all of them very well, to be honest. And we want to do things that we're passionate about. So, like, we work 4.5 days. We finish at 1 o'clock on a Friday, and the team tell me that they just love the fact that on a Friday afternoon they can meet their friends, go do a hobby, just take that time out, and it just feels like they've had a long weekend. McKinsey & Co said that 54% of employees reference not feeling valued, and that's one of the reasons that they quit. It's the biggest reason why they quit. I did a conscious leadership course through Entrepreneurial Scotland, actually the start of the pandemic, and it's basically about leaders putting their people at the top of their agenda and not viewing them as a means to an end, but the kindness, collaboration and co-creation. And you shared at the start of this talk who your favourite leader was and why. And I bet if we rolled it all up, it would cover these attributes, which according to research are the most admired in a leader: caring, honest, transparent, human, inspiring, calm, serves, consistent, brave, empathetic, and has humility. So if we collectively believe that these traits are the ones that leaders should have, I would suggest it starts with you. It starts with you as a leader. And I mean you as a leader. There's formal roles that expect leadership, like CEO and manager roles, but there's countless opportunities for everyone to build their leadership skills and to take acts of real leadership. Anyone can be a great leader. So something that I thought about and learned on conscious leadership that stuck with me is, how would you feel about your precious children as they started the world of work if they were being managed by someone like let's call him Bob. And that really hit home with me, whether it's a child, a niece, a nephew, a friend's son or daughter, how would you want them to experience a leader? How would you want them to experience the workplace? How would you want them to be treated? And the conscious leadership mantra is heal me, be self-reflective, sort yourself out first, serve we, collaborate as a team, and then you can go and create and deliver on your purpose. And I'll share with you honestly that I need to be calmer and more patient. In fact, my husband told me I need to calm down, like proper Scottish Dundee saying. But as they say in our great country, business and setting up in business is a roller coaster of emotions. And if I flap around, I know that everyone gets nervous, and I am a bit of a flapper, and I have been known to flap. So I'm really working hard on staying calm in the tricky times and choosing my response, like Viktor Frankl says, and not allowing my frustration to choose the response. So let's talk about Will. Poor old Will Smith, right? He had a bad night at the Oscars, didn't he? I'm really interested in everyone's chat on this because I know this has been going crazy in WhatsApp groups and so on. Like, did he do it? Is it real? And so on. But let's say for a moment it is real. So Chris Rock was rude about his wife. Will got up on stage and slapped him hard. And if ever there was a sliding door moment, it's right there. Words matter. Words really matter. Because imagine Chris had said, Jada, you're really rocking that look. Not great, but better. Imagine Will had paused, had taken the space to calm down and choose his response. How different could it have been? So don't be like Will. Don't be like Bob. Be like the CEO of Alopecia UK, Sue Schilling, who the day after the Oscars said, we don't get to go to the Oscars and write speeches, but perhaps Will could have grabbed the mic and said something like, apologies everyone for interrupting the proceedings, but I really feel the need to challenge the joke that Chris has just made about my wife. The difference between Jada and Demi Moore, who shaved her head for the role of G.I. Jane, is that my wife's lack of hair is not by choice. She's got a medical condition called alopecia. And I feel that it's time that obvious jokes were not made about anyone's appearance in a society where it's unacceptable to make jokes about someone's race, sexuality, or disability. That's not a reason to bring her into a joke when, like here, she's simply trying to enjoy the evening. It just really made me think about the Viktor Frankl piece, and if ever there was a time to choose your response, I think it's absolutely Will Smith's. I think he's getting stripped of his Academy Oscar as well, I just read. So yeah, it's a big one. So once we've raised our own self-awareness and where we need to be better, it's time to take action and improve. Once we're ready to be the leaders that we admire, we need to create the best possible environment. And it's not up to you to do this on your own, because people may look to you as a leader for direction and clarity, as if you now have the secret sauce of what's going to make every employee happy. But we're all in this together, facing the challenge, and no one knows the best way to do this, and we're all figuring it out. So this is my roundup of the critical ingredients to a great work environment, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. So please put your thoughts in the chat. What makes a great work environment now, post-pandemic, thinking about the way you work now? What's really important to you? We'll come back to that. So my little roundup is individual reward. So Gary Vaynerchuk says that for companies to survive, they need to make systems based on you as a person, not based on a system for all. You know, like that herd mentality that's destroying organizations, where you say you've been here for 10 years, you get one more day's holiday and a gold carriage clock, well done, and everyone gets the same thing. It's just not like that anymore. You know, we're all individual. What if I want to have a 2-hour lunch to walk the dog on the beach and do a bit of yoga? I don't even know why I said that. I don't even do yoga, but you know, reading or whatever I want to do. And this is why at Social Good Connect, we've created a digital platform that makes volunteering easy. But the reason we did it was that it intelligently matches you as an individual to volunteering opportunities of your choice at a time that suits you, doing something that you enjoy. We're trying to steer employers away from we've chosen this charity of the year, everyone has to conform and get involved. It's like, actually, we're all individual, we're all passionate about different things. So ask everyone what's important. You might just be surprised. Praise and recognition. When is the last time that you praised and recognised someone for a job well done? You know the ones that are sitting doing a brilliant job quietly, silently, making it all happen? It's those people that need to get the praise. A simple thank you, I recognise you, I see you, sometimes is just enough. Make sure that they know they're not just there to fill a seat on a structure chart. They're there to make a real difference and bring value, help them to understand how. Any other material things like 3-month cheese subscriptions or books or other material items, because you know they love them, because that's what that person loves as an individual, also makes someone feel special. Create space for sharing. So sharing stories about your personal life, and it doesn't have to be anything you don't want to share, about what's important, how things are feeling, what's happening at home. I always ask the team what's going well and even better if. So, it just opens up well, these things are really going well, and I wish I could do this differently, or it would be easier if, it would be better if we did that. So create space for sharing. Being vulnerable. So I just told you about my need to calm down and be more patient. But that's about psychological safety, and it means that people can speak honestly without fear of repercussions, and it's really, really critical for high-performing teams. So if I start opening up about my mistakes and my vulnerabilities, then hopefully the team will do the same. Balls that I've dropped, admit to these mistakes and communicate when you're doing something new, and say, I'm trying something, it might not work, but let's give it a go. And just communicate the hell out your values. We do it all the time. In fact, we've all got it on our screensavers. I'm sure the team are sick of it. But we do it at our team meetings as well. I just go, right, what's our values? And they know we're going to do it, and we have a laugh about it. But it's really important that the values are not just something in a drawer. It's values we live by, we make our decisions by them, it's who we are, and we actually celebrate people who've delivered on those values. Listen more and speak less. Another tough one for me. But it's back to the words matter, asking for feedback, asking the staff who are speaking to your customers, because they're the ones that know what they're thinking. They're the ones that can help you shape your products and your services. I think in the chat we talked about, opportunity for growth, telling you that they believe in you. Talented employees will always try to learn. They'll always increase their knowledge levels. So giving them opportunities and tasks that help them grow professionally and encouraging personal goals to be achieved is really critical. Greater flexibility. I can see Denise has popped something in the chat there about hybrid working, and really embracing that and not being office bound. That's exactly what I was going to say, Denise. It's like 9 to 5 office hours are gone. Independence within the workday is what's needed. Outcome focused, not time focused. And we've got a little office in our head office in Dundee, and it's a collaboration space. It's not everyone has to be there. More recently, we've said, can we do 2 days together, 2, 3, if you can, but 2 days together would be great, just to collaborate and share ideas and move things forward quicker. Giving people an opportunity to do more in the community. Obviously, that's what we do, where we're passionate. But to know that if you're a person who cares about that if you work for an organisation that takes that into account, gives you time to volunteer. And I don't mean 2 days a year. I mean 2 hours a month, 30 minutes a week, something you can really fit into your week that feels easy. This is why we do what we do. Basically, we just offer that easy way. David White gave a quote and said, the antidote to stress at work is wholeheartedness, doing something for someone else, expecting nothing in return. And that buzz that you get from helping others and volunteering, that's kind of what we'd love to bottle. A bit like when you go to the gym, although I don't go to the gym, so I don't actually know what that feels like. But imagine it's the same experience and the same buzz. Another one that I heard recently that I loved was stay interviews, not exit interviews. Why do we do an exit interview? Don't you think it's the most bizarre thing that we do with when people leave, or when you get asked to do an exit interview? It's almost like, why would we not ask them before? Why do we ask people What's the things that are really challenging them? What they would have liked to have happened differently? And what is going to make them stay? Like stay interviews. That just blew me away when I heard it. 'Cause, I mean, we still do exit interviews. I'm like, why? Why on earth would we do that? Because it gives you the chance to truly listen and turn it all around and understand the frustrations and the challenges really. So I think stay interviews instead of exit. We've recently introduced team dates. I call them team dates. The team probably don't know I call them team dates, but it's really when I go for a lunch or a dinner or a coffee with each person of the team individually. Now we're a small team, so we're able to do that. And if you've got a bigger team, obviously it's a bit more challenging, but it's just amazing what you glean from a one-to-one conversation. And it's great insight to speak to the team about non-work and work stuff. And lastly, being part of inspirational membership groups. So we are a B Corp certified organisation and proud of it. We're a living wage employer and proud of it. We've signed up to the Young Person's Guarantee, which is fantastic. There's also 1% for the planet. And we've got a resource pack that we'll give you that'll give you all these links after this call, if that would be helpful. And this is an example of what people do for your company if they feel valued, cared, respected, and inspired. It's a story from 2015, I think it is, but it still inspires me today. So Ibi Paracha had been deaf since the age of 2, and every morning he stopped by his local Starbucks with his coffee order written on his phone to show the barista. And on this one day, the barista, Crystal, began using sign language, and she asked him what he'd like in his coffee, what he'd like to order. And she handed him a note that said, I've been learning sign language so that you can have the same experience as everyone else that comes in this Starbucks. And he smiled for a long time, and he later wrote about that experience. And he said, Crystal and I chatted for 2 minutes, and I learned that she'd spent hours watching YouTube videos just so that she could take my order the way she does for everybody else. I have never felt so equal in my life. That is what valued, empowered employees look like. That's what inclusion looks like. And since then, Starbucks have opened sign language stores in the US and Japan. So in summary, words matter. They really matter. Choose your response. Breathe, calm down, and choose your response. Think about your who luck people, the ones that energize you, lift you up, spend more time with them. Get clear on your purpose and share it with everyone. Live by it, set your critical success factors around it. Be self-aware and choose to be the leader that you admire. Don't be Will, don't be Bob. Invest in your people and choose one thing, just one, to do better or differently today. What would that be? Thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to take any questions. And if you'd like to get resources from the talk today, I think either through Edinburgh Business Festival or one of the team are going to pop something in the chat. Otherwise, I'd love to connect with you outside of this webinar. Please feel free to email me. It's just caroline@socialgoodconnect.org and follow all of our socials. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I think that's given everyone a lot of food for thought, and that people and purpose are really tied. Even from personal experience on my end, I've done a lot of work with Department of Work and Pensions through the Kickstart scheme and placing young people in job placements. And we've done a few site visits at the job centre, and a lot of the candidates are asking, what is employers' purpose and do they have sustainability goals? And it is far more tied in. But if anyone has any questions, if you can get them popped in the chat. I think I've got one for you, Caroline, just to kick us all off. So from your podcast, I'm interested, out of all the people that you've interviewed, whose story or leadership quite inspired you? Maybe not the most, but whose story was it that inspired you?
God, there's so many, Emma. I'm going to have to stick with Darina. So Darina Garland is the CEO and founder of Uni Pizzas, and not just because she does great pizzas, because they taste amazing, but the whole culture that they have around people. They've grown from I think 48 people to 250 people in a really short space of time. And some would say, but they were just really lucky in the pandemic. And Actually, it's not about that at all. It's, they prepared to be lucky all these years and built it up from scratch. I think they're people, what they do, they offer things like £500 for your passion fund. You get to spend £500 on, it has to be something you're passionate about. They do lots for charity. They're also one of our members. They do lots for community. They're signed up to 1% for the planet. But I think most importantly for me, with Darina and Christian, who are the joint CEOs, they genuinely care about their people. I mean, they're one of their values is kindness, and there's kindness displayed all across the organisation. I mean, imagine taking on 200 people in, I think it was 12 months. I think it was less than that, actually. I mean, imagine what that must feel like as a growing organisation. And they do it with kindness, with care, and with respect. And I think that's why people love working at Uni. It's a brilliant place to be.
Thank you. I can see we've got a question in from Jane Baxter. How can we make the most of intergenerational working and reduce possible frictions?
Well, that's a great question. Gosh, I do have some thoughts about this. I'd be interested in your why you're asking that question, Jane. But there's a lady whose name's escaped me, but I will find it. Harriet. I can't remember. But Harriet has written books, and her name isn't Harry, it's Henry. Her name's Henry, that's why I was struggling. She has written books on this subject about intergenerational, and it's about understanding all the different generations. And one of the things she talks about is how the different generations like to be communicated to. I've actually got some notes on that, Jane, so I'll find them, and if you ping me your email, I'll send them to you. But it's absolutely about that, and it's things like, for example, the young people, my daughter and young people in our team do voice notes all the time. I don't even know how to do a voice note. And I was like, what is this voice note thing you speak of? And Wordle was another thing. I don't even know what Wordle is. So, it's things like that where the generation gap starts to pull away. And some of the best times is when I see generations coming together and carrying out projects and collaborating on work, because you get the best of both worlds. You get a fresh, someone who's fresh ideaed, full of excitement and opportunity, and someone who's a bit longer in the tooth, but perhaps has been through and can make those ideas go faster and quicker in terms of the learnings. But there's some good follow-ups on that. There's some good books on that. I know we don't have much time just now, Emma, but I'd be happy to share some other thoughts around intergenerational, because it comes down to there's 4 different generation bands, like baby boomers and millennials, and then the Gen Zs. There's been research done on how people like to be communicated to and so on.
Thanks for that. We've got another question in from Lucy Webb. So how can employers enrich their staff if the organisation is mainly remote? I feel it's quite difficult to get to know your team when there isn't in-person touch points.
Well, we're exactly the same, Lucy. So we're all remote based, but we do come together once a month. We do a face-to-face meeting once a month. I don't know the size of your organisation, and obviously it's not possible for bigger organisations to do that, but certainly getting together with your team once a month. So we do an all-team call on a Monday where the whole organisation comes together, and we talk about team cascade of messages, any news that we want to share in the team, and then we talk about our rocks, which are our 90-day activities that we're delivering on, and where we've got any blockers or where we've had success. And that's what we do on a Monday for an hour, so everyone comes to that, so that helps. Then we do a monthly face-to-face where we all come together for a full day, and we do sessions in there called our CODI sessions, which are challenges, opportunities, dilemmas. We split out into groups and tackle our biggest priorities as little groups, little teams, and then we come together. We do things like tiger teams, which work really well if you're remote. So working across different functions, HR, marketing, customer success, sales, if you all come together and tackle a particular problem, it can be really, really powerful. And they're like short, sharp, projects. But there's no substitute for getting face to face. There just isn't. I mean, we make this work, but you can't. There isn't enough of a getting to know you. So I totally understand where the questions come from. In fact, Scottish National Investment Bank, I was chatting to them the other day, and they came alive or started in the pandemic, and they hadn't met either, and they did a full all bank meet, and it was really just about team building and opportunities. And of course, Lucy, I'm biased, but the other thing is to get involved with us at Social Good Connect and do some charity work as well as doing some team building at the same time. That could be another way, but it is tough. The remote thing is really hard. We use Slack. I don't know if you have any kind of chat function, but we use Slack to chat to one another throughout the day. And we've got a staff kitchen channel where we share photos of, well, maybe I shouldn't say, they might sue me if I tell, but photos of like drunken weekends and dogs and cats and all that sort of stuff.
Thanks, Caroline. I can say that was something I found quite strange when I started at the chamber. It was remote, and I remember when we first got together over summer, they turned up and they were like, "Oh, you're this tall," so it is quite peculiar, yeah. Is there any other questions in the chat that would like to field to Caroline before we wrap up today?
Yeah, height's a funny one, isn't it, Emma? We've had a lot of laughs about that. I didn't know you were so small. I didn't know you were so tall. It's like, yeah, it's brilliant. Didn't know you had legs was another one.
There we go.
Just sitting down all the time.
The chats went quiet. So thank you so much, Caroline, for today. I think the chat's been very lively, which is always really good to see. What we'll do is we'll pass along information from Caroline and her team to those that have joined us today, just so you can get in touch and follow up. Just to do a little reminder, we will have our final keynote session, which is at 2:15 today, which is with David Duke, the founder and CEO of Street Soccer Scotland. So that's how we're going to be rounding off our 2-day business festival. So it'd be great if you could join us. We'll pop some links across our socials. But Caroline, I'd just like to say thank you again for joining us. It was a really insightful session. And thank you everyone else for taking the time to join us as well.
Great, thanks for having me, Emma.
Thanks everyone, bye.
Bye.
Thanks.